So this math lesson comes from Chapter 3, Lesson 9. We are just going to subtract decimals not using pictures and not using base 10 blocks. So if I have this problem, 5 and 83 hundredths minus 2 and 18 hundredths. I need to do the same thing that I did when I added decimals. I need to line up my place values and line up my decimals and line up my numbers so they are organized, so I don't make a mistake. So I'm going to start with my very first number, 5 and 83 hundredths, minus, I'm going to line up the number in the ones place value, which is in this case the 2. I'm going to line up my decimal points. They should be right on top of each other. I need to line up the number in the tenths place value, which is the 1, underneath the number in the tenths place value above it. And then I need to line up the number in the hundredths place value with the number in the hundredths place value above it. After I line up my numbers, line up the place values, and line up my decimals, step 2 is to bring that decimal point straight down. And then I just subtract like normal. I go 3 minus 8. Ooh, can't do that, so I need to borrow and regroup. I need to say that's going to turn to 7, and this will turn into a 13. So then I do 13 minus 8, which I know is 5. And I'm going to keep that answer right in line with where I did the math on. So I did 13 minus 8. That was in the hundredths place value. So my 5 needs to stay in the hundredths place value. Now I move to the tenths place value. And I can do 7 minus 1. And that gives me 6. I move to the ones place value. 5 minus 2, which is 3. And I'm keeping all of my answers lined up underneath. So my answer is 3 and 65 hundredths. Let's do another problem. Let's do 15 and 8 tenths minus 9 and 67 hundredths. Well, my first step is to line up my place values and line up my numbers and line up my decimal points. So I'm going to start with what I have first, 15 and 8 tenths minus, oh, well, I don't have a number in the tens place value, but I do have the 9, which is in the ones place value. So 9 decimal points get lined up. Now I have a number in the tenths place value. I can put that here. And I have a number in the hundredths place value, but I don't have one above here. Remember back to when we did addition. You can use equivalent decimals if you don't have enough place values to match up with the number below it or above it. So I can add a 0 here, and it still means the same thing. So now that my numbers are lined up, and my place values are lined up, and my decimal points are lined up, I can go into step 2, which is just bringing that decimal point straight down. And then I can just simply subtract. So I can I can't do 0 minus 7. So since I can't do 0 minus 7, I need to borrow and regroup. And this 0 turns into a 10. And I say to myself, 10 minus 7. I have 10 apples. I need to take away 7 apples. How many do I have left? Well, I know that's 3. So I'm writing my 3 in the hundredths place value. It needs to stay lined up perfectly. Now I move to the tenths place value. I can do 7 minus 6. I have 7 apples. I need to take away 6. I'm left with 1. I need to keep this lined up perfectly. Otherwise, I might make a mistake with my answer and with my math. So now I move to the other side of the decimal point, and I'm moving to the ones place value. I cannot do 5 minus 9. So I need to say, what can I take from? Well, I can take from the hundreds place value, turn that into a 0, and turn this into a 15. So now I'm saying 15 minus 9, and I know that answer is 6. So my final answer is 6 and 13 hundredths.